Welcome back to a very special episode of Raised by Giants Halloween Show Special. Uh, and we have an amazing panel of guests here with us today. And we are live. Welcome, everyone in the chat, moderators and members. Good to see you guys. And we're just here to share some paranormal experiences, explore the supernatural, and maybe even Bigfoot. Who knows? I'm really convinced that Bigfoot is real. And I have some stories for you guys to share with you as well. So first up, we have Trina Phoenix. How's it going, Trina? Good to see you, my dear.
It is so good to be here, and thank you for having me, Ryder. And hi, everybody in chat.
Yes, it's good to see you. It's going to be a fun show. Interested to hear some of your paranormal experiences and your spooky stories, Trina. It's going to be fun.
There's been a lot.
We could probably go on forever. Next up, we have Nina the Mystic. How's it going, Nina?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Ryder?
Oh. I'm doing great. Ready to get spooky. I don't have a costume on, but I had a plan for one, but it didn't work out. So we have to just roll with the punches here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wayne should be joining us here sometime later on during the stream. He's got some technical difficulties, which isn't any problems, but yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. Well, Halloween Eve, right? That's the original. Do we know how Halloween started? Do we know the origin of Halloween?
Well, it's definitely a pagan thing, and I do believe the folklore was the reason for the whole pumpkin thing was to scare away the evil spirits and whatever. So yeah, and I guess dressing up is like hiding from them. I think it was that kind of thing. From what I understand. I grew up in Norway, so we didn't actually have Halloween there. So I actually didn't experience Halloween until I had my own children. So I don't really have anything to draw from my childhood per se, but I do believe they are kind of doing it now because, it's all Americanized now on TV and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Do you know more about it, Trina?
Not a lot. It's just always been part of my existence, since in grade school we had, we always did all the celebrations. I mean, they don't do that anymore like we used to. We did St. Patrick's Day. There was always fall, spring. We always acknowledged all these different transitions and different holidays. It was just normal to observe them, but we really didn't even understand what Halloween was. As I got older, I started to learn a little bit more. And we have in Arizona, we have a lot of the Hispanic culture Halloween too, which is the Day of the Dead for them. So we have kind of a blending of both here. We've got the Western and then also the Hispanic culture of their belief system, which is kind of cool. So we have a unique blend of, I heard the costumes were to protect you from the ghosts because if you were in a costume, they couldn't see you. It was protection.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't know that about the jack-o'-lanterns. That's cool.
Yeah, that's from what I understand. I do believe it started out with not pumpkins. It started out with some other vegetable that they were carving out. Something that was probably more available maybe at that time. I'm not sure. And then it transitioned to pumpkins.
I think you're right. It was gourds. It was gourds,
or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those weird folklores they have, But it's funny how the Christians also took over the Day of the Dead, because in Norway we do celebrate All Saints Day, All Helgens Dag. And it's kind of neat because everybody lights a candle at the cemetery. So the whole cemetery is lit with candle lights. So that's kind of cool. That's something that I remember that they still do. And I kind of still do that now. So what I do is I go up to the cemetery. I have my own plot. I've actually purchased my own burial plot where I buried my mom there. I wasn't expecting that at the time. But anyway, so I go up there. And on Halloween, actually, tonight, so a few hours now, I'll go up there, light a candle, some incense. That candle will burn then all tonight and all throughout the night, which is then all Helgens Dag, or the Day of the Dead, which is other parts of the world, so that there's something going on up there. Just because we don't do that here. So I'm kind of bringing the traditions from Europe over to here a little bit. So that's
Well,
kind of
it's interesting that it was originally a pagan holiday because
hmm
we took over Christmas as well. Christmas was a pagan holiday as well. So we're just co-opting all the holidays here for in America. It's really weird, but
yeah, they
Easter too.
realized early on that they weren't going to be able to not have a celebrate. We were still celebrating our days, and they realized that no, they're going to do it anyway. So we might as well incorporate something so that we can celebrate too, and kind of mask it up to of something else. That's kind of what they did there. But
I think it's strange that because I was looking up the origin of witches on the internet before the show, and it said that the druids of old, witches would dance around a bonfire during this time of the year, All Hallows Eve, when the veil between the dimensions was thinnest. A custom was to rub hallucinogenic ergot onto brooms for a wild ride into the netherworld. They were said to communicate with higher dimensional beings, thus gaining divine feminine wisdom for their tribes. I think that a lot of that is due to the hallucinogenic ergot. I mean, that's what the Salem witch trials was supposedly all about. That these people were just tripping on a bunch of ergot hallucinogenics and thought that all these people were witches and decided to burn them. But that's interesting about the broom, though, that they would put ergot, hallucinogenic ergot on a broom and then ride around on it and then just trip balls and then and go interdimensional. And that's how the
yeah,
whole thing of
so
witches became.
yeah, I don't know about the broom thing, where that came from, but I know it's for the witches or for the pagans. This is actually New Year. It's like the end of the old, like everything is dying now, and we're going into the new kind of thing. So it's for a lot of people, it's the new year, and so that's what they're celebrating, and also celebrating the harvest as well, like that whole thing, of harvest. Because back in the day, if you didn't have a good harvest, you may not survive the winter. So it's definitely something to celebrate, if you do have a good harvest. So
Yeah, and I remember Trina, you reading from a book a long time ago on your channel, talking about how the calendar has been all screwed up, and the new year in January isn't really the new year. It's actually around this time, or it's in the fall,
It's
around
in
September,
it's
October.
yeah, it's still in Aries, but everything is shifted about 23 degrees from like where Western looks at it. So everything's a little bit different than we think. But yeah, I think it is. It's division between the light and the darkness. So this is the entrance into the fall, into the
mhm,
winter part of the calendar. And yeah, like
mhm,
you said, fall and the harvest, that's all about the harvest of your the production of what you've done all year. And then winter is meant, like organically to rest. You know what I mean? So it's a
mhm,
perfect cycle if you look at it that way. And yeah,
mhm.
that's when most babies are born, is in the winter months too.
Oh, is that right?
Conceived.
Conceived,
Yes,
that's
it's
gonna say,
conception.
usually they're born in spring, but yeah. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big cycle of life happening right there. Yeah, it's huge. So there's a lot
Yeah.
to it. And it's the same in our body. It's kind of cool.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, let's get into some spooky stories. I just watched the new Goosebumps on Hulu the other day, so I'm into some paranormal and spooky stories right now, and I have a few myself. So, Trina, let's start with you, my dear. What I guess the question would be, what was the first thing that you experienced paranormal wise that really solidified your belief in the paranormal, right? What was that one event that you had happen to you? Maybe not even so much as a kid, because we all have experiences as children and as kids, but in your life as a teenager or maybe a young adult or into your 20s, what was that experience that was like, holy shit, this is real?
Well, this was definitely the most profound, and it was my first, and it was different than nothing else was ever like this one. And the story begins that my friend who lived right across from me, They actually, their property was on Indian burial grounds, and they did not know this. And they were having issues building their house, and the house couldn't be built. Every time they'd get part of it done, a storm would knock it down. It was the weirdest stuff. And her dad built houses for a living. They built houses in 6 weeks, foundation to framed, done. And he could not build this house to save his life. It was making him kind of insane. The energy was crazy on the property because they couldn't figure out why they couldn't build the house. So they were all living together in a temporary mobile home until they could get the house done. And they couldn't get out of this mobile home. And the energy was off the hook on this property. So one night, things would move all the time. You'd go past the trash can and they'd throw tin cans at you. I mean, there was stuff moving in this place. There was a lot going on. But the most intense thing I ever witnessed was when one of those Native American spirits jumped into their grandma. And she woke up out of a sleep and went in straight to the whiskey and grabbed whiskey and started smoking and started saying bad words. And she doesn't do any of those things. Never, ever, before, ever. So that was kind of weird. And we were like, what's going on? And when she walked past us through the candlelight and the TV reflection, her shadow showed a full head-dressed Native American Indian chief with the feathers going all the way down the back. And it was so much bigger than she was. But you could tell it was an Indian man. It was the most crazy thing I ever saw when I was a kid. That one was like, wow.
Yeah, that would be really intense. Nina, what do you got for us?
Well, I mean, where to start? I mean, I was pretty much spiritually attacked from the day I was born. So, every night was spooky time for me. And I think I've been kind of reflecting on that lately now, especially, talking about stories and stuff. And I think I was so busy trying to act normal when it was daytime that I was never into spooky things. Never knew what Halloween was. We didn't grow up with Halloween, never seen a Ouija board, never really, and we didn't have TV either in Norway. So very sheltered that way. But at night, I'm being spiritually attacked, but never talked about that. It's just taboo. We just didn't talk about it. And the final incident, I would say, when I was like, okay, that's it. I need to check this out. That was a major incident where something actually manifested in my room. Like it wasn't just energy attack now. It was an actual being in my room. It came in, laid next to me, like spooning me because I'm laying on my side. And of course, I got my hand up like this. And he puts his hand like this in my hand. And I could feel all the fingers, like it was a real tangible being like next to me. Mm-hmm. And that was it for me. And the next day I'm like, I need to start talking to people, my friends, to see if they got the same kind of things going on at night. Of course, nobody did. Nobody knew what I was talking about. And then that's when I went on the internet and started checking things out. And so it's just been crazy ride, that's for sure.
Do you think that was like sleep paralysis? Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
So that's kind of what they call it. So, it is kind of like a sleep paralysis, although, it's funny because I've never had it since. Like once I started talking about it, bringing it out to light, I think it helps actually. And, I got away from Christianity and kind of just started, researching and whatever. It all went away. I've never had it since, it's been years and years and years. No, it was definitely more than just a sleep paralysis. There's definitely a being there. It always wanted to attack your solar plexus. And this is why I do believe that our soul, or whatever you want to call it, resides. That's probably why it's called solar plexus. That's where our soul is, because it would always attack me there. I would always have to crunch up into like a fetus almost to protect myself there. I could never sleep on my back. As soon as I went, and I had this happen while I was awake too. One time in Vegas, I hadn't even laid down yet and they started attacking me. So it's not just a sleep thing. It's definitely attacks from the other side. But
did you ever figure out why that happened or how it got there?
So I've had a long time to reflect on this. And I think because it went away when I, got out of Christianity. I think they were trying to wake me up. They're literally trying to, show me that, hey, there's more to life. Like, you got more to do here than just being a mom and a housewife or whatever. You know what I mean? There's more to life. And I was just so stubborn, I think, and just, nope, this is how life is. And that's the way it is. And I didn't want to see or deal with anything. So it literally took them that much in order for me to like, okay, that's it. And to snap out of that whole thing and to start learning and studying about what is going on, what's going on the other side. There's more to life than just what we see around us here. That's for sure. So
yeah, I've had sleep paralysis a couple of times in my life. The first time I had it was I was getting ready to go to sleep. I was staring at my closet door. I felt two hands on my back. One was like on the middle of my back and one was on the lower part of my back. The window was closed, but the blinds, it was like those draping plastic blinds that are like that wide, those really
yeah.
crappy ones. Those were just going back and forth, just like slamming against the wall. And I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed. And then I heard this weird like whispering, like something was whispering in my ear, and I kept saying in my mind, because I couldn't speak, I was like, who are you, what do you want, what's going on? And like I was almost to the point where I was like hyperventilating because I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. And my roommate came into the door. This was probably like 5-6 years ago. My roommate came into the door and it just snapped me out of it, and I just got up out of the bed and took that big deep inhale breath. Like I was like, because I could finally breathe again. It was making me to where I was like hyperventilating. And the second one was I was laying in my apartment and I just worked a graveyard shift, and I got home, I was laying down, and I was felt like that I was getting into that mode. You know how like you're getting ready to get outside of your body, like you feel that like vibratory state, like you're about to, have a out of body experience, or you're getting ready to blast off out of your body. Well, I felt that, and then I like couldn't move. I was laying on my back and I couldn't move, and then I looked over, and there was this being that was hanging from the ceiling. It was like in a noose. He was like hanging from the ceiling, and he was like shaking his head as fast as he could. It was like a blur. You know how like you something is moving really fast on video, and it just like looks like a blur. And he was hanging from the ceiling, and he was shaking his head, and it was like a blur. And then this like shadow person came out from behind that being that was hanging from the ceiling. And he had like a top hat on. Then I looked over to the corner because I couldn't move my head, I couldn't move my body, and I just looked with my eyes over to the corner, and there was this weird like reptile looking being that had like, I don't know, 12 arms. It was almost like a snake, but it was also like a worm. It was like a worm snake thing, but it had the face of a human, and it crawled up to the corner of the wall, and it was like The Exorcist, where it turned its head completely back around and then like looked at me, and then like I snapped out of it. It was wild. That was the first time that I had experienced seeing anything in a sleep paralysis state, but that was 3 or 4 years ago now on that one, and I haven't experienced it since. It was interesting though.
Wow.
Yeah.
One night I was sleeping and I fell asleep with my phone in bed accidentally, and there was some weird stuff. My house had caught on fire 3 times. I was under some kind of serious attack, and my phone was taking pictures all night, and I got a picture of some guy with a sword like getting ready to like take on this. It looked like a plasma serpent dragon head face thing trying to get me in my bed while I was sleeping. Very interesting. I was like, wow, that was strange. Yeah. And actually my phone.
Wow.
Yeah, and it got a picture of it, and the pictures all around it are like of the comforter, which was white or just jet black, like I must have been laying on it or something. And then all of a sudden there was like 2 pictures, and the same pictures were on the 2 pictures. and it was of like this guy, and he had like really like a white robe on, and he had a sword, and he was getting ready to slay that thing that was coming after me. And it was so weird. It was very weird. I was like, what is going on with that? Very strange.
Yeah, sleep paralysis is something that's I think more study needs to be done into sleep paralysis, because it's people that have experienced it 100% believe that it's real. You know, and the people
I
that
know
have
it's real.
never experienced it normally are, you know, are more skeptical of it, and it's like, oh, it's just your imagination, or it's a really lucid dream. But when you're in it, it is very real. It's probably the realest thing that you've ever experienced.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sitting there praying to Jesus does not help at all, by the way, just so you know.
You know what I wonder?
Yeah, I just want to quickly tell you too, for
wonder-
those, if somebody's listening and they're having this and wondering, how do I get rid of it? One of the things that I did at the end, I was starting to get used to it, and I was starting to play around a little bit with it. And I found laughing at it. It's like the bully in the playground. Like if you start laughing at the bully won't know what to do. It'd be like, you know, baffled, right? And so I highly recommend, if you're able to, try to make yourself laugh, you know, and just laugh at it, and it goes away. It worked for me anyways. So sorry. Go ahead, Trina.
Well, I think that is like the coolest thing I've heard so far on people dealing with sleep paralysis. I think that's just amazing. It's laughter. That's amazing, because that's what I was contemplating. You know, you hear so many people that have this, and I know it's real, because wow, the people that have had it, you can tell that is real. And I wonder if we produce a chemical when we sleep, so that way we won't get up and act our dreams out.
Yes, we
I
do.
wonder if it's some type of malfunction with you came into your body too quick or whatever. You know what I mean? I wonder if that's a part of it. So then you're stuck seeing all the interdimensional crap that happens literally when we're sleeping, and we don't know anything about it. But you're actually getting to consciously view it. So then you're like, oh crap, and you can't move. But you know, it's because that chemical for sleep has you knocked down. But like I said though, laughter, that's amazing, because I was thinking, it's like, you know, when your body wakes up, there's like some kind of electrical pop, you know what I mean, that wakes you up. It gets you into the body. It's like a pop. It's like you got into your body and got consciousness before the pop hit. But laughter's like that pop. Laughter is like that pop. So maybe I wonder if that's the key to get people free, is laughter. It makes a lot of sense to me, especially if it's a chemical thing you have to untrigger with some type of a snap into the body. Laughter would be that snap. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's brilliant, Nina. Brilliant.
Yeah, it sure worked, you know, for me anyways. And I've heard other people too talk about, you know, people who are conjuring spirits and stuff like that. If there's something evil or whatever, to do the laughter thing, it seems to just make them go away. They just can't handle being in that energy. Because if you're happy and you're in a laugh, it's a different energy than, you know, so they just can't handle that. So that's
that vibration. That vibration's like acid. Yeah, it just repels immediately. It's true. That's true.
No Bull True says, I fought mine as in swung at it and it flew off my bed. You guys and girls have the room go silent as well when you experience this. When I experienced it, the first time the room wasn't silent, but the second time it was silent. What about you guys? Nina?
Yeah, I don't remember hearing anything other than that wind. Like it is like a swooshing kind of wind kind of thing that goes along with it. I'm not sure exactly what that is. It's funny that you mentioned the wind thing in your room there. I could never see if anything was blowing or anything, but I could hear it and feel it kind of thing. So I don't know what that's all about, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting because that's what I experienced as well. It was like a wind going through the room. The windows were closed. I made sure I closed them before I went to sleep, so I knew that there wasn't wind coming in. So yeah,
It's like
but
a
I
portal, I guess,
I've never
opening
felt
up.
that indoors. I've only felt that outside. Like there was no wind, and then all of a sudden it was windy, but just in a little area right there. And then other weird stuff happening with nature. But I've never felt that inside. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I can see that outside because they use the elements. Spirit will use the elements, and wind is one of them, obviously, right? So, and they're trying to communicate with us. That's the thing, and they're trying to do whatever they can, But we just dismiss it. Oh, that's just the wind. Oh, that's just a fire, whatever it is that they're doing, right? But we're always like, was it though? Like, but those of us who are, more accustomed to this now, we know better, right? But I know when I was younger, I would dismiss all of it. I didn't matter what it was. Nope, that didn't happen. None of that happened. I was just going to go on with life now. So, yeah, funny.
Yeah, it's interesting that we talk about when you were talking about Trina, whenever we're asleep, there's like something that makes it to where we can't really move. Like I watched a Bigfoot documentary the other day on HBO, and they were talking about how the Yeti apparently has the ability to put out subsonic sounds, like really low frequency sounds that can paralyze people, like make it to
That
where
makes sense.
they can't move.
Yeah, well,
That
I'm
makes
assuming that
sense to
spirit
me.
knows how to do it. They know how to get us
I,
into
I, I think
yeah.
I think the aliens know how to do it too. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think they all have
Spirit,
figured that
alien.
frequency out. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of
I
it.
mean,
I think they yeah, I think
yeah, I know we've
yep.
talked about this before. What is spirit and what is alien really? Like, we got to start looking at this now. Like, what is going on here, right? So, yeah, and I can't remember if it was Horns of the Goddess, but I was reading something where they said something about putting them into a paralyzed state. They can just do it just like that. So, and then of course, scientists will of course dismiss it because they'll try to make it into a scientific thing. And I do believe our bodies do make something like that so that we're not hurting ourselves when we're sleeping, because, some of us, could get up and do things or punch ourselves or whatever, so there is a natural thing that happens to our body as well. But, this goes beyond that, though, I would say. So
Yeah, King James just said infrasound. That's what it is. That's what they claim that the Yeti can do, or Bigfoot. They can put out a infrasound, just
Wow,
paralyze people.
that's
It's
amazing.
wild.
well, that would make
Yeah.
sense. That's how they can kidnap you, I guess, if just put you in a paralyzed so that you can't resist anything. And, yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting. Are you guys familiar with the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia in 1959, where the hikers went up on the mountain in Russia, and then all their bodies were found later on? Really weird ailments had happened to them. Their bones were broken. One lady had a tongue ripped out of her mouth. They were puking up blood and all that. Are you guys familiar with the Dyatlov Pass incident? Well,
No.
it's really interesting. It happened in Russia in, I believe, 1959. But there was another one that was really interesting as well that happened in 1993, also in Russia. And there was a survivor. There were 7 hikers that went up in this mountain in Russia, and they were walking along, and there was one survivor that survived, and she came out and said that what happened was they were just walking, and then all of a sudden they all started falling to the ground one by one, and they started bleeding from their eyes and like puking up blood. And she watched them all die like within minutes. And like then she ran away, and I think someone on a kayak or something like that found her and like got her to safety. But it took her 4 days for someone to find her out there hiking in the mountains. But 6 other people just randomly died. They just fell to the ground and started bleeding out of their eyes and puking up blood. Wild.
Call me
I'd never heard
crazy
that before.
writer, but
It's crazy, yeah.
you know what I just heard though? They got hit by a beam, something beam
I was going to
with
say,
that
it makes you
frequency.
wonder if there was some kind of
Yeah.
radiation or some kind of
Yeah.
something going on that they're, the military might be doing things up in the forest, out in places they're not expecting people to be there. And, who knows what they're doing, up in there. And so it could be something like that as well,
But
Yeah.
why just randomly though? Why randomly on a mountain in the middle of nowhere would they be doing that? And my first thought was some sort of radiation because they think that that's what happened at the Dyatlov Pass incident. But this one was a lot more interesting because they didn't really have a lot to go on at the Dyatlov Pass incident because there wasn't any survivors. There wasn't anybody to tell people what had happened. And they had cut themselves out of their tent and they were all kind of just spread out over the immediate area, all dead. And they were struggling to figure out what happened in that. And the official report, the first official report, said that they encountered I might be misquoting here, but some unseen force. They were killed by an unseen force. And but the other one was very interesting because people can just speculate on what happened with the Dyatlov Pass incident. But this one, where there was a survivor of it, and she can tell you what happened to the other 6 people that she was with, that they just fell to the ground and started bleeding out of their eyes and puking up blood and died
That
one
sounds
by
like
one.
technology.
Yeah, it had to be something like that. Yeah, some kind of radiation, something. Yeah, they were probably
And
experimenting
she
with
just didn't
something.
get in. Yeah, and she
She
didn't
must
get
have.
into the field close enough yet. Right. She saw
Yeah.
them and she stopped and held back.
Mhm.
And the ones that were in it, they all got affected by
Yeah.
it. But she was the only one that wasn't in that field of, because they say a lot of these beams they hit in perfect squares. So they're lined up in squares. So she just didn't get in that box. She was just
Yeah.
outside of it enough to see. Yeah, that's crazy. That sounds like technology. That would be, because for her not to be affected and those all to drop dead and bleed out of their mouths immediately, she
Yeah.
wasn't affected because she wasn't in that field of penetration. Whatever was
Bet you,
hitting what she was in
bet
it.
you the military knows all what that was all about. They're just not going to tell us about it, unfortunately. So,
Probably
Yeah,
6 feet
King
apart.
James says that infrasound can't be heard by human ear, but most can feel vibration in chest. I've heard it because I've heard it can cause disorientation, paralysis, and nausea. Which, hey, where I heard this original story from was on that Yeti documentary on HBO, and they were coming to the conclusion that it was Bigfoot, the Yeti, which is the Russian version of Bigfoot that we have here in the United States, that the Yeti was emitting uh, this infrasound frequency and killed these people.
Wow.
I don't know, maybe, but it does sound like some sort of radiation because if you look up long form exposure to radiation, you do get nausea, you get vomiting, you get sickness, you get paralyzation, and also you get hallucinations as well with long term exposure to radiation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then Paul, I was talking to Paul about this yesterday because I found it really interesting, and he sent me this. Let me see if I can find it. But there was something else that happened in. See, I think nature is very scary. I think nature is out to kill us just as much as other people are out to kill us. But he sent me this screenshot of an African cloud killing people. This is a wild story. So on August 21st, 1986, a gas cloud issued from the lake in Cameroon killed over 1,700 people. A gas cloud came out of a volcano and killed 1,700 people almost instantly. Nature is wild. Why nature got to do that to us? Isn't it hard enough to live here as it is? But nature is trying to kill us too.
Well, we're not from here. That's the problem. We weren't supposed to be here at all. Like, I mean, we're the only species on this planet that has to have shelter and all this stuff. Like all the animals here, all they got their own fur or feathers, or they don't need shelter. They don't need, we're the only one that's sitting there all naked and can't survive without this, that, and the other thing. And so yeah, it doesn't surprise me that we succumb to a lot of different things, because we're not supposed to be here in the first place. So
Wouldn't that suck just to die by something stupid like that, like a freaking gas cloud coming out of a volcano and just killing you and
now,
your
was it a
entire
freak
town?
gas cloud though, or was this another one of these military experiments that they're doing? They're doing all kinds of things and
Right.
that we don't know about. And people aren't supposed to be there. You see, that's another thing. The hiking way up in the mountains. They weren't expecting people to be there, and so they're doing their things. And then, unfortunately, people show up there, and bad things happen. So where do you think we're getting all this technology? Like, we got to experiment on this stuff, somewhere. Away from people. All these A bombs. We've been releasing those over the years. Who knows? Yeah, what else they're doing that they're not telling us about? That's so.
But think about it. We got volcanoes here. We get hurricanes. Hurricanes kill. We get tornadoes. We get high winds that destroy towns and destroy cities. Like, what's going on here? Why is nature so scary? We got animal predators out in the woods that can kill you. You got a bee. A spider can kill you. Snake can kill you.
I guess that's what makes it so interesting, isn't it? We just never know when our last day is going to be, and to make the best of each day we're here, and because you just never know. We're so fragile, really, in these bodies.
Yes.
Yeah, our bodies are fragile, not us.
Not promised. Yeah,
It's always
tomorrow's not
something.
promised to anyone. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, giving birth, you had a 50% chance of dying. I mean,
Correct.
like, it wasn't that long ago, so yeah, it's keeps us on our toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really wild. I was just thinking about that last night. I was like, wow, we live in a very unstable planet where volcanoes can just erupt at any time. I mean, Yellowstone is what, thousands of years past due to erupt, and if that thing erupts, it takes out like half the United States and half of Canada. We got tornadoes and hurricanes. Like, nature is wild.
Never mind the earthquake. I know I'm in BC, Canada here, and we have 300 years overdue for the big one. So that's going to take out all the west coast of Canada and US. So, that's the thing. We're on borrowed time here for sure. Either way, wherever you turn around.
Yeah, and even if you live a long, full life, you're still on borrowed time here. This place is temporary. It's supposed to be.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
And it makes it more interesting, I guess. If we knew that, everything was safe and everything was all the time, it would be boring, right?
Right. We'd be bored.
Yeah, it's a thrill, really. It's a thriller. Every time you go out in your car, it's a thrill, right? Really, because, I mean, it's a huge chance of something happening, so
Right. Yeah.
enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, the thrill of the experience of being here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
so
ride.
there was this really strange encounter that I had one time that to this day I don't know what it was. So probably around 5 years ago, I was out in the country and I decided to take a walk down the road. And there was this church right down the road. It was an old church, and it hadn't been in use for a really long time. I was like, oh well, it's really late. It's probably like 1 a.m. And I was like, I'm just gonna, walk down to this church and just sit on the step and contemplate and see what's going on. And I get almost to the church, and there's a fence that ran all the way down the road, and there's a creek down there, and I'm like right at the end of the road. I'm getting ready to turn right to go to this church. It's just, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 feet up the road. And I hear something like snarling on the other side of the fence. Like, I'm like, what is that? What is that sound? What makes that kind of snarling noises? And then I hear a growl. And I'm like, oh shit. I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on here. And I had my phone on me, and I was going to whip out my phone and turn the flashlight on to see exactly what it was, because my first thought, well, it's a bear. It's a bear. It's by the creek. It's trying to get water. It's trying to get hydrated. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not even going to do that. I'm not even going to whip out my phone and turn the camera on to see what it is, because I was just kind of freaked out, right? So I just take off running. I just run right back up the hill to the house, and I can hear whatever this thing was running like right alongside me.
Oh,
It was the weirdest, strangest thing that I had probably ever experienced. But it was like galloping right beside of me. And I thought that whatever it was, that it was going to get me. I was like booking it. This is probably the fastest that I've ever ran in my life. I was a sprinter at that moment. I was running the marathon right then and there. And I made it back to the house, and I was completely out of breath. And to this day, I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was a bear, some kind of animal. There wasn't any animals in that field at all. It was just a fenced in area. It was kind of cold. It was probably right around this time of the year. And I don't know. It was really strange, but I keep kicking myself in the foot for not whipping out my phone and turning on the flashlight to see what it was. But at the same time, I was afraid that I was going to like scare it, or it was going to jump over the fence and like get me or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Might have been Bigfoot.
That's
Might have had an
amazing.
encounter with Bigfoot.
yeah.
Maybe.
Wow, that's weird, eh?
Speaking of Bigfoot, they have a very weird cry that sounds animal, but it sounds human. They have a different kind of cry, and I've on videotapes I've heard them. But I'm telling you what, one year up at our cabin, and I was out on the porch with Jim, and he's been up there for 50 years, and we heard something in the woods, and we still don't know what it was. And I mean, those guys know every animal in that area backwards and forwards. And this thing, when I heard it, I was like, what is that? And he goes, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? You even know how to make the calls of the animals. You don't know what that is? He goes, no, I don't know what that is. And it did it again. And he looked at me. He goes, we probably better go inside. I've never seen these guys shook by a sound of an animal before. And I don't know what that was either, Ryder, but there was something out there. And wow, it had a very, very different cry of anything I'd ever heard before. It was very odd.
Yeah, have you seen the Missing 411 documentaries with David Paulides about all the people going missing in the national forest? He had one of those.
You know that Travis Walton?
Yeah.
Travis Walton, the guy who got fire in the sky sucked up by the ship? That's literally right in the same exact area where I heard those
where your cabin
sounds.
is. Yeah.
It's exactly in the same exact area. Yeah, I'm 5 minutes from where he was literally taken.
I'll have to come check that out. I think you were telling me about that when I was out there visiting. We'll have to go out there sometime. I'd like to see it and check it out. But in the documentary Missing 411, The Hunted, he has this whole section at the end where these hunters in California are up in the mountains at like a secret location that they would meet at every year. And back like I don't remember when the footage was taken. It was a really long time ago, but they heard those noises that you're talking about right now, Trina, and they have it on video, and it got analyzed by a voice expert, and he was like, "This is no way possible that these sounds are coming from a human." So, if people are interested, check out the Missing 411, the Hunted documentary. Is the second second documentary that he did, but that was really interesting.
I couldn't
Maybe
believe he didn't know the cry because he knows every animal up there. They've been hunting there for 37 years. They know every path, every trail. And he was shook. And I was like, if you're freaked out, then we better run and we better get a gun. And he was like, yeah, we might want to. I don't know what that is. I was like, oh my gosh. So I wired her. It was crazy sound. I've been up there my whole life too. I've never heard nothing like that. I don't know what it was. It was really creepy, and it gave me the goosebumps. When I heard it, I was just covered with the chills. I was like, what is that? It was very, very strange. And
Well,
then
the
one
theory.
night,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the theories are that
that's
we have
something.
beings living underground. So if that's the case, who's to say that they don't come out once in a while? Especially in remote areas like that, up in the where they don't expect people to be, maybe. Who knows? So yeah.
yeah,
Native
Loretta said,
Americans do have stories that they
yeah,
saw the little people in those areas. They have stories of that on that
Mhm.
Mogollon Rim where the cabin's at. They do say that.
Yeah, there's that
and
too.
the
Yeah.
lore and the legend of Bigfoot from the Native Americans is very real as well. So
Mhm.
I think Bigfoot is real, guys. I'm
I think it
convinced.
is too. There's too many stories, because we're kind of naive to think that we're the only species that was made on this planet or has been here. So if we go back to the Anunnaki, they made a lot of different mistakes, apparently, different things. And who knows, they may have made something that was a little taller, a little hairier than we are, and
I
somehow
think
they survived, and
I
yeah.
think that's our direct descendants. I think we
Yeah.
are direct descendants of that species. I am almost
Mhm.
certain of it. And I'm pretty sure that's in the Bible when they had the twins. She's like, I've given birth to a man and I've given birth to something else. What? Because one had a lot more fur. So I think,
Right.
like humans still are hairy. We have a lot of hairy humans. I think that's the more of the original from the blending. I think that that's one of our primary descendants is probably Sasquatch.
Yeah. Or sibling or something like that. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, apparently,
cousin
like
or something.
the
Yeah.
Yeti is way more aggressive. The Russian Yeti, which you would expect from Russia. The Russian people are freaking strong.
Like a
Yeah, and
bear.
They're
aggressive.
called, yeah, very
Yeah.
aggressive. But the Bigfoot apparently is not so aggressive, but can get aggressive if
I'm
it
sure it would
feels
be if we got in our
threatening.
face,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're pretty good at hiding. That's the thing. There's a lot of things going on underground that we don't know about, right? We think we're the only ones on this planet, but that's because we can't see the rest of it that's going on underneath the ground and also on the moon. There's a whole thing going on up in there as well. So, we've been kind of
And
kept in.
under the oceans.
And that's another
Through the
thing.
water.
Yes, that has really been brought to my attention lately. That's something I want to do a show with you, Ryder, about. There's, is it we're being told to be looking up to the sky, look for all these things up in the sky, but are they really up in there, or are they maybe down in the ocean where we don't want to investigate it all down there? Why is that?
It says the beast shall rise out from the sea.
Yeah, I think that's where we need to start focusing now. Whatever they're telling us to do the opposite. Don't look up. We need to start looking down. Yes, looking down. Even that movie, Look Up. Because
Don't look up. Yeah, with Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
Right.
right. Yeah. Pretty much do the opposite, and I think we're on to something here. So I definitely want to do a show on that because I think the stuff that you and Jay have been coming out with lately, I think you guys are starting to hit it on the nail on the head here. I think we're starting to figure things out. And,
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're crypto terrestrials. I think they're here and they've been here for a really
Yeah.
long time, and
Yeah.
they've been misinterpreted as extraterrestrials coming from off the planet. It's
Mhm.
exactly like what you said. Savage Lee says, I don't want to be mean, but how come no Bigfoot roadkill? Every species on the planet has been taking turns being roadkill. People sure the elusive spotted snow leopard, not even in 35 years splat. I don't know, Savage. Maybe they're smarter than the average animal. I mean, deer are really stupid. Deer are some of the stupidest animals on the planet, and they get hit on the road all the time. So maybe Bigfoot's smarter, and maybe Bigfoot doesn't is in the woods where there is no roads. Maybe he's smart enough not to go
My
around any
only-
roads or civilizations.
My explanation for the reason they might not be hit by vehicles is I think that they're very sensitive to frequency and vibration. And that is it's not a sound of nature. So the sound of a car would probably be very easy to observe and perceive for them. And I do think they're
Oh,
very
yeah.
intelligent.
They stay clear of us, I'm sure, for various reasons, and it's kind of like, we know that there's been giants here, right? But yet they've hidden all the skeletons. Like if you go to the Vatican, they're notorious for that. That's what they did. They hid all the skeletons. You'll find all kinds of things down in the basement there. And I wouldn't be surprised that if some hunter or whatever found a big skeleton like that, it would be hidden away. It wouldn't be told about. We're not allowed to talk about that. Just like the whole giant thing. They just try to.
When I was a little girl, I went to the Smithsonian when I was little, and this was probably in 1979 or 80. And I remember seeing the skeletons of the giant. And it wasn't that it was shown a giant skeleton, but what they had skeletons from little tiny people, and then about 3 foot, 2 feet people.
Mhm. Uh-oh.
Trina frozen?
I think she froze. Yeah, there is definitely all kinds of beings, different sizes here with us. We just don't see them very often, But you look at folklore, like I grew up in Norway, we talk about the trolls, and I love that new troll movie that came out. That's awesome. I love that. They're you can see them in nature if you look closely enough, like trees and in the mountains, and you can see them there. Like if you look close, if you use your imagination, right, you can see them there. And there's something to it for sure. I guess her internet went down. Yeah,
So
there's
good.
something to that for sure.
North Wanderer says that coming from Australia, I can confirm the kangaroos are not the smartest animals, road animals in existence. Well, does kangaroos? Well, I don't know. Deer. I think deer are responsible for a lot of deaths. I think that yearly in the United States, the deer are responsible for around 200 fatalities and 10,000 injuries yearly in the United States. So, are people dying whenever they hit the kangaroos with their car, North Wanderer? I'm just curious.
Well, they're a pretty big bang. Yeah, they're pretty big animals. So it would definitely do a dent on the car for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the deer are ridiculous. You would think that they would be more smart and not go in the road when they just seen their whole family members just get taken out by one car. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to go on the road anymore," but they keep doing it.
They don't seem to be very scared of us. Like I had a deer come right up to my house here, and I even opened up the door, and I'm filming it, and it's just sitting there eating. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like, are you supposed to be scared of me? Like, you know what I mean? Like they just have lost their fear of people, I think. And because
in some places, not in all places, some places they're more scared of the population than others. Here we got Trina back. Hi, Trina.
Hi. Got
Lost
that. I was talking about that stuff, and they said nope.
Get her off of there. No.
Yeah. The wee folk, actually, that's the kind of thing that wee folk do. Like they're very mischievous, little elves, and yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you the story about when the fairies stole the car keys?
I don't think so.
For real. Brian went with Jennifer hiking in Sedona, and I was there. And they went on a trail, and I told them, be careful with fairies. They're known to be really frisky out there. And they were like, yeah, whatever. They literally got her car keys. And I don't know how they disappeared. The sheriff was there. We had to call a tow truck. I mean, it was a long, big process. We ripped the car apart 5 times. The sheriff helped us rip the car apart. We went through the backpack, each one of us. We all looked and looked and looked. These keys were gone. She had to have another set mailed from California to Arizona. She had to get more hotels, $1,000 tow bill. I mean, this was a big, big deal. And then 3 weeks later, the keys showed up inside that backpack that we searched 5 times, and it was covered with dust from Sedona all over it.
I had that happen one time. Had a little party, and we made salad for the party, and we put it in the refrigerator. And midway through the party, someone was like, "Yeah, go get the salad." I was like, "All right, cool. I'll go get the salad." So I go to the refrigerator, open up the refrigerator door, no salad. Then I go back to the person who asked me to go get the salad, and I was like, "It's not in the refrigerator. I don't know where it is." And then she was like, "Oh, go back in there and check. I put it on the second shelf." And so I went back to the refrigerator again, tore the refrigerator apart, could not find the salad. And then it was boggling my mind. I was like, "Where in the world is the salad? We just made it a couple of hours ago." And I went back and looked again, and then I'm like, "Okay, I'm done looking for the salad. I don't know where it is." And I went and asked her to go look for it. She couldn't find it either. And then the next day, the salad was back in the refrigerator, hadn't been touched when the party was over. I was like, "What is going on?
Wow.
Where did the salad go?"
That's so crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that they do. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's so nuts. Yeah, the car key thing was a real pain in the butt, though. So I will tell you, that was no fun.
So this is why, the pagans started doing, laying out offerings for them, having a little, fairy garden going on, and, just acknowledging that they're there and appease them because they didn't want bad things to happen, right? So, it might be a good idea to kind of start back up at these things again, just to make sure that everybody's happy that, we're going to have any bad things happen, might not be a bad idea. Even when you're going hiking, pay attention to nature. Don't be littering, don't be doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, and just, acknowledge them there. And hopefully, you'll be more protected and stuff. Yeah.
Well, the interesting part about the fairies is that I think the fairy lore was some of the first abductions. Like they started talking about
I think you're right.
fairy abductions.
I think you're right. And it was always the children, the babies. They would take the babies. And they say they would swap babies too. Swap.
Yeah, there's a name for that. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But yeah, the fairy abductions was where the lore really started. And then there was something around the fairies would pick a woman to go and take care of all the babies in the forest or whatever. And then now we have, people that claim that they were abducted by extraterrestrials and taken aboard a ship to take care of their hybrid children. So it's like the same thing that has just been repeated, and the names have been changed, and the thought process behind them have been changed.
Yeah, back in those days, they didn't know what UFO or aliens were, so it was the fairies. So that's kind of interesting that these things have been happening all along. We just didn't know what it was.
You know what, Nina? And they were called the Fray. And what do we call the aliens? The Gray. The Fray, the Gray. Interesting.
Yeah, it's probably the same stuff happening. It was just, we have different understandings now, And of course, Hollywood doesn't help, with all of that now, but.
Changelings. That's it, Kim. Thank you. That's what they were called, changelings. Yeah, it's really interesting. The whole fairy lore has just been duplicated and named something different for a new generation of people.
Yeah. I think these energies have always been around.
Yeah, I've always had the understanding that we're in dimensions. We're occupying the same space, but there's different layers, different dimensions. And for some reason, I knew that even as a child, And so, yeah, it is probably for some, maybe in other dimensions, it might be easier for them to get through. To just come through and take something, or like who knows, like. yeah, and who knows, maybe now at this time, maybe it's getting easier. There's more portals opening up. I don't know exactly what's going on, but yeah, there's definitely something to it. I don't think it's just people getting stoned and making up things. Like there's something to it for sure.
Some of
Yeah.
it, Nina, but a lot of it is made up. Loretta says, but I've been getting that too, things not being where they're supposed to be and showing up later. Yeah, I actually had a experience with that when I was really, really young too. Not only with the salad one was the most recent, but when I was really young, I had a bunch of action figures and Beetleborg's action figures, which was a kind of like a knockoff of the Power Rangers back in the day. And I had this action figure that I loved the most. That was the white Beetleborg. And my family and me went on a vacation to Washington D.C. And I took this one action figure with me because I loved it so much, right? And I lost it when we were in Washington D.C. And I was really upset. I was, like, oh, that's my favorite action figure, and now it's gone. And when we get back home from the trip, I sit down on the couch, and in between the cushions, when I sat down, something poked my leg. I was probably like 5 or 6 years old when this happened. Something poked my leg, and I reached down in between the cushions of the couch and pulled out that white Beetleborg that I had lost in Washington D.C.
Wow.
That's so crazy.
So this
Wow.
sounds
So
like
crazy.
glitches to me. Glitches in the Matrix. And I know Augie Nuss talks about this in his book, Spiritual Science. So there might be something more like that as well, where there's glitches in the Matrix. So
Yeah, it's weird. And I had
Yeah.
one with retelling this stuff is bringing up all kinds of different things. I lost my iPod. You know those iPods that were the real bulky ones, like the original iPods that you had to like scroll and do like the circle thing to move to your music, and had the video game brick on it. I had one of those, and I lost it for a really long time. And I was doing laundry, and I saw something sticking out from underneath the dryer. And I reach up underneath the dryer, and there's the iPod that had been missing for like a year, which I don't know if that was anything strange or anything weird. It could have possibly just been in my pocket doing laundry and then, somehow slid underneath the dryer, but it still worked. But it was like a year out
Yeah.
of date. But
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty fun. It's pretty interesting.
very
Wow.
interesting.
It's amazing.
There's so much
You know,
going on.
one time when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I actually saw a reptilian in my bedroom when I was a kid, and my sister saw it too. And it wasn't like any other reptilians I'd like seen pictures of, and I've still only seen it one time. Anybody draw a picture of what I saw, because it was like pink. It was like a coral, fleshy salmon color, I guess. And it was little, and it had little teeny little tiny horns on its head. And it had red eyes though, and I didn't like the red eyes. So when I saw it and my sister saw it, and I looked at it, I said, "Go away," and it went, and it was invisible. So those things can cloak, and it went invisible. So I didn't know if it left or if it just went invisible, because I just saw it go invisible.
Yeah, that's another thing I
that
was
was
thinking
weird.
about with Ryder, with that thing, running beside you. You couldn't see it, but you can hear it and feel it. So it could be some kind of cloaking thing. Some of these things might have that kind of capability too. So that's another reason why we don't see them, but they're here. We can kind of feel them, but they're here. And so yeah, so that's another explanation, I guess. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Chameleon.
Yeah, and that
Chameleon.
Yeah.
and that like the aliens too. Like it's like, yeah, I've seen the ships. I've seen that, and then the cabin one time we saw a big ship having babies come out of it. So little ships coming out of the big ship. And that, I woke the whole family up to see that. I'm like, you wake me up for a bugle and elk, I'm waking you up for this. So they were all looking at it through the binoculars and they were like, what? I was like, right? That's why I woke you up. It's kind of weird, huh? So we've seen a lot of weird stuff, but like I said, I don't think they're coming from far away. I think they're coming from here.
Yeah, I think we're
Most,
starting to realize
if
that
not
now. Yeah,
all.
exactly.
I really do. I think they're coming from here. And I
And
don't
this,
think that we know how big this planet is. I think we're being
no,
lied to. I think it's bigger.
yes,
There's old
I think
maps
so.
with 13 more continents. So, wow,
Mhm.
13 more continents? That would be a lot of potentials for a lot of different species, a lot of different animals. It could
Yeah.
be different magnetic fields, different ozone, oxygen layers. I mean, it could be completely different than what we are. So, what if all this traveling to Mars and traveling here and traveling to Jupiter? Those are probably just another continents outside of the ice ring.
It's
And it's
highly
all here.
possible. I think that there's something like that going on too. I think that the Earth is way bigger than what we've been led to believe, and quite possibly
It's a
all of
theory.
There's a
yeah.
reason why there's a no-fly zone on certain places. Why is it that we're not allowed to fly there?
Well, I think it's highly possible that there's another highly advanced civilization that lives on Earth, and that's a big reason that they don't want to release the technology for the kinds of crafts that they have, because they
Yeah,
don't want just
they don't want
anybody
us
going out
flying.
there and finding this ancient race of beings.
Yeah, like do. Oh, hey, yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, yeah, they want to take away the whole plane experience from the looks of it. They don't want us flying around as much. It's part of the whole lockdown here, and it seems this is coming again. From what I understand, we're going to be, they don't want us flying all over the place, and I think they've come to realize that we can't be holding back this technology for much longer now. I mean, we're still flying around in planes with little ashtrays on them. And I asked my brother, because he flies all over the place all the time, and he's like, yeah, you're right, the ashtray is still there from the 60s. We're still flying around in this same tin can that my grandparents were flying around in. Why is that?
Right.
Why is that we're not, moving forward here? Like, what's going on? So I think we've gotten to that point now where, okay, we're going to have to do something. We're either going to give it to them, or we got to take it completely away from them. And that's what they're trying to do right now. So,
Yeah, Savagely says if you're seeing a UFO, it's human, anti-gravitic, magnet-driven tech the government doesn't want to share. I agree with you, Savage. I think that a majority of it is government technology that we've been working on for a long time. But if there is a possibility that it's something else, that doesn't mean that it's extraterrestrial. It's like the hypothesis that we were just talking about. It's a more advanced group that's been here, that's indigenous to this earth, that might be very similar to us, might look almost identical to us, or even wildly different than us. But that doesn't mean that they're extraterrestrial. If they're from here, that means that
Did
they're
you know
terrestrial.
Savage Lee also had a mysterious return of his action figure too?
Really?
Yeah, he had it happen too. He had it returned too. My action figures when I was a kid too. The miracle return. Yeah, he had it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's interesting.
that's really interesting. The yeah, I think strange things happen in this reality all the time. We're just not meant to really know what it means or what it is. I don't think that our brains can really even comprehend what it is.
King
mhm.
James also says that Virginia Brazil alien was pink with red eyes and the little horns too. Huh. I've never heard anybody else that's seen one. Because all of them are bigger and they're gray, and no, that's not what I saw. I saw, no, it was a little reptilian with little
Mhm.
horns and red eyes, and it was pink. It was like coral. I'd never seen it again. Only saw it one time. My sister saw it too. But I will tell you, before I saw it, I felt it for a few weeks. I felt its presence in my room, but I couldn't see it. And then that one night I saw it, and then my sister saw it. I said, "You see that?" She's like, "Uh-huh." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "You need to go away." And then it went, but yeah, these things are here. I don't think they're from far away though. I
Mhm.
just don't think they're from far away. Could be
Yeah.
wrong.
How tall was this entity, Trina?
It was little. I thought it was like a baby reptilian. Like it looked little,
Hmm.
like a little kid. Like it was 2.5, 3 feet tall. It wasn't very tall at all. Because I was a little kid and I was like, I'm bigger than you, you know, because I was only like, and I was like, I'm bigger than you. You go away. You know, that was my energy. I was like, go away. So I wasn't afraid of it. Which was weird. It startled me though, especially because the red eyes. That startled me. And then I was just like, just go away. Like, I don't just go away. And it went away and it never came back. And I didn't feel its presence anymore either. So I don't know what that was. But that was not long after I saw a ship out my bedroom window. I think that's when it started, was after I saw the ship. And when I saw that ship, I knew that they saw me somehow. I don't know how I knew, but like I knew that they saw me or they knew I was watching them. Like somehow, as soon as I saw them, they were alerted somehow. I don't know. And I knew this when I was 10 years old. I knew that they knew that I knew I could see them. And I knew that they knew that I was watching them. And I knew to hide as low as I could, but I didn't want to not see. So I just had my eyes over my windowsill and I kept watching it. And then that's when that thing showed up a couple weeks later. But then it was gone, never came back.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Maybe it was pink because they were trying to engineer themselves to look more human.
Or more childlike,
Maybe.
something that a child would
Mm.
accept,
Yeah.
right? Small,
Yeah.
pink, fluffy kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it did it didn't
Yeah.
it did it seemed like it was just watching. It didn't seem like it had any ill intention. Like I
Mhm.
didn't get scared. I felt those bad energies over at my friend's house and when the Native American took over grandma, that was not good. That was bad. I could feel it. This was not bad. But I could tell it was just watching me, but I was like, "No, get out of my room. Go away. You know, weren't invited here. Go away." But it wasn't threatening. So yeah, that could be something to make people not so shocked. I don't know, but yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
completely
morph
threatening.
themselves into something that's acceptable, right? To the person that's
Maybe.
watching, so they don't freak out. Because some people can die. Like they can get so scared they just die. So,
Oh yeah.
they gotta be careful when they're approaching us, I
Mhm.
guess. But thinking back here, 11, 12 years ago, about this time of year, I'm living with a roommate at the time. We're sitting out on her balcony. She smokes, so she was, smoking, and we're just sitting there talking. All of a sudden, we see this kind of like an energy, kind of something was trying to manifest itself right in front of us. It was like it was
Wow.
weird, and I'm looking, and I'm used to all kinds of weird stuff. So I'm like, at first, I'm like, should I say anything? And so I'm like, do you see that too? And she's like, yes. So I'm like, oh, perfect. So somebody else is actually witnessing something too. But yeah, this thing was trying to manifest. Like it was so glad that I had somebody else there witness that. So, I don't know. It could have been like because her husband died a few years prior to that. I was thinking, I got the feeling that maybe he was him trying to manifest themselves there. I'm not sure because we were talking about something, a dresser that he had made out of wood. We were talking about that at the time, and all of a sudden, so I'm thinking it was probably him trying to manifest himself there. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was a spooky kind of thing that happened a while back.
Hi, Gemma. Good to see you from the UK. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, guys. You just said Norway doesn't really celebrate Halloween. Do we know if other countries
They
celebrate it?
didn't. They probably do now. They probably do have some trick or treating now, just because of the American television, and we've been watching it. But when I was growing up, no, we didn't have any. There was no Halloween, no trick or treating, none of that stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you saying that story, Nina, reminded me when I was really young. I was at a babysitter's house and I was walking in the backyard and there was they had clotheslines out in the backyard and I'm walking by and there wasn't anything out on the clothesline. Now, I don't know if this was just my imagination. It was probably just my imagination, but I saw like a big white sheet just like go all the way across the backyard, like from the house all the way down to the wood line. I was like, what was that? You know, and there wasn't
I've
there
seen
wasn't
those.
any.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
I've seen
strange.
those
Like,
kinds of energies. I've
yeah, it
seen
was
that
just like a
too, Ryder.
giant. It was
Big,
like a
big
waving
white.
white
Yeah.
sheet. Yeah.
Yes,
Could
I've
it have
seen
been
that.
a sheet though that was drawing on the line
No.
and then blew off the line and it was just blowing in the wind, or
In
makes
my
you
No, because it
memory,
holds its form while it travels too. It stays in its form, kind of. It's like I've seen that. I have seen that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
and I've
really
seen
interesting.
shadow people too. I've seen the dark shadow people too. And that one time, like I said, the shadow of the Indian that was in Grandma, that was really weird. That was I couldn't even explain
So
that
do
one.
you think Grandma was possessed? Is that what's going on there? Or?
Yeah, I took her
Yeah.
over for a little bit to hit that whiskey and have a couple cigarettes, and then it let her loose. She didn't even
Hmm.
remember it. And she yelled at us
Wow.
the next morning, thought that we had gotten to the liquor cabinet. She thought that
Oh, really?
we did it. And we were like, no, you did it. And she was like, that is not funny. Like, she thought we were lying and we got in kind of trouble, but we didn't do anything. She
Yeah.
really did do it. We didn't
Hmm.
do it. So, yeah, she was trying to blame us for it. I was like, no, that was you. And she was like, I don't drink alcohol. We were like, we know. You know, so after all three of us kept saying the same thing over and over, finally she was like, you guys are crazy, whatever. And she just brushed it off, never spoke of it again. Because
This
she
is
had
where-
no memory of it.
I was going to say, this is where it would be handy if you had a cell phone, right? So you could like film Grandma doing this, you know, to
I
show
was
her, hey,
10.
remember
We didn't have them yet.
No, I know.
We didn't
That's
have
one
them
thing.
yet.
Right. Yeah, it's too bad that you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, what do we
Oh,
think
yeah, I
that,
would have. I would have immediately wanted to put Grandma on TikTok for evidence. I would have. I would have been like, oh, you're still going on TikTok. It's happening, Grandma.
I'm so glad I grew up without the cameras, boy. Oh, man.
and people would have been like, "It's fake, Trina. It's not real. That didn't really happen."
I know, right?
I'm like, yeah, right. You got to talk to Grandma in the morning, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you talk to her. That's
we
right.
should've-
She'll tell you what's up.
Technology is backfiring on us because now we don't believe anything anymore because we just think it's Photoshop or, oh, that's, you know what I mean?
That's
So
true.
it's hard to, you know, it's, yeah, nobody will believe it now.
I think it's best just to look at it
The
as
funniest
entertainment.
thing, though, the funniest thing, though, is like if it happens to you and you experience it, it doesn't matter who believes it or not. You know,
That's true.
it don't matter. They can't undo that in your consciousness. So it's like,
That is
whatever,
true.
you don't have to believe it, but and then something will happen to them, and then that's all it takes. But they gotta feel it. You know, nothing's real until you feel it. So skeptics is healthy,
But that's how
but
you
it
figure out
changes
if
as soon as
someone
you get it.
is full of crap or not, because if they get mad and triggered over you being skeptical over their claims, then that's a telltale sign that they're full of shit. Right. But if they
Yeah.
don't get mad or triggered and it's just like, okay, yeah, whatever, then
yeah.
they probably really experienced something. It's the people that get mad about you being skeptical of what they're talking about. You know that they're a bullshitter right out the gate. You know that they're just making stuff up.
Yeah, you
Because
wanna
someone
know
that really
one more-
experienced something will not get mad at you for wanting to disprove it or be skeptical of it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah, because you're the same. You're in the same boat. You're like, if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe a damn thing you're saying either. Because that's what you really think until it happens to you. Then you're like, I would have said the same thing. I would have said you're full of it. You know what I mean? But until you start experiencing these things, once that popcorn is popped, there's no putting that shit back in the kernel. It's done. And another really weird thing that happened to me one time, I was doing a session with a client who had a whole bunch of different personalities hanging out in his body system. I mean, a lot. And we were clearing a ton of energies. And I was driving him home. And I swear to you, it looked like the Dementors from Harry Potter literally came out of the freeway and smashed out my car window. And where it hit was a perfect cross right in my forehead in the middle of the windshield. And the guy looked at me, he goes, "What was that?" I was like, "I don't know. That's probably something to do with you and your friends." I said, I don't know. And he goes, no, how did that thing not be able to touch you? I was like, why did you say that, for one? And for number two, I have no idea why that thing couldn't touch me, but it was like it hit a freaking brick wall and it could not touch me, but it broke my windshield of my car right.
That's really
Like
strange,
not a little bit,
Nina.
a lot.
I had a very
Huh?
similar experience with something like that. I was driving with my friend in the car. It was late. It was probably around 11 p.m. at night. It was pouring down the rain. We were driving on this road where there's like nothing around us at all. And there wasn't any houses. It was on a stretch of road that was like right outside of town. No houses for like 3 or 4 miles, no buildings, no structures, nothing. Pouring down the rain, and all of a sudden this big giant black ball just comes out and hits the windshield of my car while I'm driving. Like it was as
That's
big
what
as,
this was, but it was.
yeah, it was like a big exercise ball. It was as big as a big black exercise ball, came out and hit the windshield and bounced. And I looked at my friend. I was like, "Did you see that? Yeah, was I the only person to see?" And it
Right.
made a noise. It like hit the wind. It didn't crack it or
Yeah.
break it or anything, but it just hit the windshield and like just bounced off. I was like, "What? You saw that, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I saw it." I was like, "What was that?"
Right. Yeah,
Weird.
this looked like a dementor. It scared the shit out of me, Ryder. I was like, whoa, and it happened so fast. Like it came out of the freeway. We were doing, 65, 70 miles an hour, and it came out like not far in front of me, and it literally came out of the concrete and went up the front of my car and smashed into my windshield and broke the crap out of it. Good thing I didn't react and crash the car. I was on a busy freeway. I mean, other cars were around me when this happened. It was really weird.
Makes you wonder how
Yeah.
many other people are experiencing these things, except that they don't make it. They have the accident. They have the
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
reaction.
And that was the thing he
where they
said.
don't
He
make
said, how did that? Yeah. He said, how did it not touch you? That's what I mean. When he saw what that was, for whatever reason, he kind of knew or something what that was. And he was like, how did that not hurt you? I was like, I don't know, but it didn't. And I mean, it happened so fast. There was no time to even put the brake on. It was so fast. It happened so fast, but it was a long ride for this thing to come up out of the concrete and like stand in the road for just a moment till it hit the hood of my car and went up to my windshield. It was like boom. All that was like real quick. But yeah, it broke my windshield, and not a little bit. I mean, bad.
Have you guys ever seen like spirit animals? One time I was driving
Yes.
on the road in California. This was probably like 3 years ago. I was on my way home from work. It was probably around 7 or 8 p.m. at night, and I was on my way back to Santa Ana. And there was this was on a busy highway. This was on the I-5,
Yeah.
6-lane highways both ways. And I was driving home. I was probably around Mission Viejo area on the 5, and it was dark out. And I saw this, like, it was like a baby deer, but it was pitch white, and
Wow.
it just ran across the road. But this is on the highway going back home, so it's on the right lane. So if this was a real animal, it would have had to have crossed 6 lanes of traffic on the other side to get to the median,
To
and
get
then
there.
cross another 6 lanes of traffic
Excellent.
to for me to see it, because I was in the middle lane on the other side of the highway, and it just ran right across, and then it looked like it like jumped up over the other side of the guardway on the other side of the highway, but that was on like a bridge. So if it was a real animal, it just committed suicide and killed itself, because it would have just jumped off the other side. But it was like a translucent white looking deer.
Yeah.
Just ran across
You
the
saw
road right in front of
spirit.
me.
Yeah.
Really
Spirit
strange.
animal.
I know
I
there's
saw a
their
cow.
binos.
No,
but
I don't know why. Why would I see a cow? But that's the only spirit animal I ever saw. A cow. Cow. Whatever. Yeah.
the white
Spirit
cow.
cow.
A white
No,
cow?
just a normal cow, Nina.
No.
Not even a white one. Just a normal cow that was kind of see-through because I could see its bones, because it was kind of not solid, but it was a cow, and it was just walking through the desert, and I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay.
Okay then. Okay. Wow. And you know what drew me to its attention? It literally had the cowbell on its neck, and that was what drew my attention. I heard the bell.
So like a ghost cow?
Yes, a
Oh.
ghost cow. It was
Well,
not
there you go.
real.
So they're turning into ghosts too, not just us.
I guess
Maybe.
so. Or sometimes I wonder with imprints in the land if the imprints of the land are projecting. I wonder that sometimes. Yeah, because those
Mhm.
Native Americans, their imprints, there were certain places of the property where the energy never stopped. And this one pole would just vibrate all the time. It would never stop. And there was nothing underneath it. There was no power to it. It was in the middle of nowhere in the desert that they had an old tether ball connected to it. There was no reason this thing should be shaken the way it did. And it did all the time. But there were certain energies where you could feel where the energy was like alive. And sometimes, but I've always been able to see and perceive since I was a kid. I could see them doing ceremony and dancing and stuff, and then it would kind of fade away like waves of water. You know what I mean? But normally I would perceive the sound first. Like I'd hear the yeah, 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 I'd start hearing the drums, and then you'd like, whoa, what's that? And then you'd tune into it for just a second, and I'd get a little glimpse of it in the peripheral, and then it would go away. But it was, but I would see that more than one time as a child traveling through that desert to go to my friend's house. So I would see it a couple times, and it was always in the same area of the wash. I'd always see it near the wash. It was really weird. And that's where I saw the cow too. So I don't know.
Tori says back in 2008, my daughter and I were traveling. I was driving an SUV out of the woods. A huge wolf was running, met up with my vehicle. That's scary. Wild wolves? Holy crap. Those things will tear
Wow.
you apart.
Yes, they will.
A lot of people were eaten by, that's how a lot of people died in the woods back in the day, was being eaten by wolves. Pack of wolves.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will.
Cool, guys. Well,
The moral of the story is don't be hiking out in the woods, people.
And if you do, make sure you got bear spray and you got a weapon, and you got to make sure you know how to run fast. And yeah, there's things you're going to need.
but what if the bear is on cocaine? That's a different story. Cocaine bear will get you no
yeah,
matter
you're
what.
in trouble then. You're in trouble.
Oh dear.
Cocaine bear, sharks on cocaine. Everybody's on cocaine.
Oh boy.
Oh,
What does the
well,
world
this
come
is a
to?
bizarre world, so
There's legitimately a movie called Cocaine Shark.
Were they?
Oh my goodness.
Where
Wow.
some mobster, somebody had to get rid of a bunch of cocaine, threw it out of the plane into the water, and then the sharks got into it and started killing people on cocaine. Classic.
Oh my gosh.
Good stuff.
Running out of storylines, I guess.
Yeah, we need alligator cocaine next.
Right.
Let's do all the dangerous
my
animals
All
on
right.
cocaine. Well, guys, this has been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. I hope people really enjoyed it. Good story time, good storytelling for Halloween, and everyone. Happy Halloween. Appreciate you guys being here. Trina, can you let people know where they can find you online?
Just Trina Phoenix on YouTube, and that's where you find me. You guys have a wonderful Halloween. Enjoy whatever you do or however you celebrate, or just relax on the couch if you do none of the above. But thanks for being here. And
Yes,
thank you,
thanks.
Ryder. And thank you, Nina.
Yeah.
Nina, where can they find you online?
Yeah, me too. YouTube. Subscribe to Nina the Mystic on YouTube, and from there you'll probably get all my other links. All my videos got all the links in there. But yeah, subscribe there, and then join me tomorrow for Hump Day Message.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time. Hope everyone really enjoyed story time on Halloween. Hope everyone has a great Halloween. I'll be back on Thursday with UFO Doomsday Cults Part 13. And please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel in an algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. And we'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.